And once again, the little spinny thing that spins before we go live mesmerized me for a moment, but I'm here now. It's okay. I am so excited to see you all. This is the last Women in Business of 2021, and I am so excited to have you all here. I am so excited to be here. And just so I don't forget, it is Wednesday, December 22nd at 3 o'clock p.m., and that means it's time for Women in Business. Can't forget that. My guest today is Amanda Delaney, and I'm going to pop her in real quick. Hello, Amanda.
Hello.
So excited to have you here. First thing I'm going to ask you to do, can you give us a little capsule bio of who you are and what you do and all that?
Yeah, my name is Amanda Delaney. I've been in the promotional product industry for, almost 20 years. I am key account manager at Highline. I'm on the supplier side of the promotional products industry. Podcast junkie. I volunteer with PromoKitchen, a nonprofit in my industry. If you're not in the industry, you might not know who that is. We're really big on education and mentorship and just really moving the industry forward. I think there's a lot of people in our industry like me who just came into it and just fell into it. And most of us, including myself, we're lucky to have people carry us through. So we're trying to create a space where people don't have to go through as much trial and error as we did. But I'm currently based down in Delray Beach, Florida. Been there for 5 years, originally from the Northwest, currently in Colorado, where my Floridian body is not used to this cold weather. But yeah, I think that's me in a nutshell, I think. Yeah.
And I told you before we started this that I have been cyber stalking you for the past few days, because anybody who is familiar with Amanda may have heard one or more of the podcasts that she's done over the past few years. She has, I'm not going to say her story is similar to mine, but she has been like me in that you are very open about your past struggles and the things that happened to you, which I think is totally awesome, by the way, and I love it. And I think it's going to give us some really fertile ground to cover. But the first question I have for you is, why are you so open about the struggles that you've had? Because I think I get that question a lot, and it always interests me what people say. And you were homeless, you had a drinking problem, you went into recovery, a bunch of stuff happened that was not optimal. Let's put it that way.
Or very
so why did you disclose it? Why do you talk about it? What made you comfortable? I guess why is that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. There's, like you said, I've been on quite a few podcasts, especially recently, as our promotional products industry has really put mental health at the forefront. And there's been a lot of big voices doing some really powerful things. And so it's been cool to be a part of that. So naturally, just being connected with who I'm connected with and being, open. I wasn't always open about talking about it. I guess the first time I realized I wanted to talk about it was after I went to rehab. So this was 5 years ago. My mom died, lost my mind. Again, that story's out there if anybody wants to hear it. And I chose to handle it with a lot of substances, essentially. I lost my job, my marriage fell apart. I fell apart. Everything fell apart. And so I got the help that I needed. And I was blogging. So I've always, before I wanted to sell pens for a living, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to, writing has always been my outlet ever since I was little. And so I was writing this blog after I went to rehab, basically hit rock bottom, went to rehab. And super long story short, that's not how my story turned out. I wasn't an alcoholic. I'm not a drug addict. I do have a very addictive personality. I watch things carefully now. I needed a lot of help that was beyond just that. I got that. I would not have been able to go out and get that help if I hadn't spent the year sober that I spent. So it all kind of comes together. But anyways, while I was sober, I was writing. I never planned on coming back into my industry. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was trying to stay sober one day at a time. It's a real thing. I get it. And I was blogging, and I don't know if I really thought anybody would read it. I was just doing it for me. And a lot of it was really dark. And a good friend of mine, Danny Rosen, had reached out, and him and another good friend, colleague, Mark Graham, had said, hey, would you do this PromoKitchen podcast? We want to talk about the taboo of, we have a PromoKitchen mixer every year in January. Ironically, fast forward 5 years later, I'm the executive assistant for PromoKitchen, a part of putting that on, and it was, will you talk about your story? And so I did. And at that time, like I said, I didn't think I was ever going to go back into the industry. Well, a month later, I changed my mind. I did. And so it was this, I think at that time I did it just because why not? My why was, why not? If I can educate people were emailing me, customers saying, we had no idea that you had a problem. And after the podcast went out, more customers and more colleagues and coworkers, we had no idea that it was that bad. And then I just started, and the more people that kept coming up to me still to this day, people do. It just wheels were spinning in the back of my mind. Like, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who drinks a bottle of wine, maybe 3 or whatever at a hotel bar when I'm traveling on the road by myself. I'm not the only one who has one too many in Vegas at Expo every year. I'm not the only one that's battling these demons. And so the more I just started talking about it, and then fast forward to where I am now, I think I've just gotten a lot more confident with myself. I've lost a lot of people in my life to suicide between then and now. I've just been exposed to it more. And so I guess kind of just like coming into my own and losing everything and just everything that's happened over the past, 2 years in my life specifically, I don't know. It's like just this thing inside of me that people need help. People need help. People have been through things, and I've been through these things. And I have people who will come up to me at trade shows and be like, oh my gosh, you're Amanda Delaney. Now, that means nothing. We do it too. We have our industry heroes or industry idols or whatever. And when I started realizing that, and I'm proud of the work that I've done in the industry and that I do, with High Caliber Line and so on and so forth. And it just, I don't know, all kind of started coming together that I might be somebody that people look up to. Like I looked up to people, you know what I mean, in the industry. And when you're in addiction, when you're in depression and whatever, you don't see that. I've always been a fairly confident person. But again, that year sober just really brought out a lot of insecurities, and I was able to kind of work through them and own them. And I just an accumulation of all of this stuff, right? I knew that I had to talk about it. And so I did. I reached out to Roger Burnett, who has a podcast, So You're in Sales, and said, I'm ready to tell my story of what happened to me the last 16 months when I took a little sabbatical from the industry. I'm ready to tell my story. And he said, I'll give you that platform. And it kind of went from there. But people need to hear it, I think.
Oh, I think and I don't know, I have this, and I don't know if you have it too, but part of my thing is I wanted something good to come out of all that crap, and telling my story and hopefully helping other people and letting them know they're not alone, to me was kind of like, okay, I'm not going to say, because I hate people who say everything happens for a reason, or, you never get handed more than you can handle. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, fine. You try handling all this shit, and then you tell me how you do. Exactly. But is there some part of you wanted to make something good out of that, and this was part of what you could do? Or is that just a me thing?
No, you're absolutely right. And that is a much better way to say everything. I was just mouth vomiting. Is that, I wanted something good to come of it. I didn't have people. I've been battling depression and anxiety for over 10 years. And I didn't know what it was when it started happening. I didn't have people to talk to. You can't be sad. You're off your game, like you can't, it's just, and I think the way that I was brought up too, my mom was a single mom. I grew up single mom on welfare and projects. Like my mom couldn't be sad in front of me, but I would hear her crying in her room, and she didn't have anybody to talk to. And I went through times where I didn't have anybody to talk to. And then I watched friends who I thought had plenty of people to talk to, myself included, and they started killing themselves, slowly but surely, one by one. I mean, a lot of death in my life. And I realized that I have a platform. And yeah, like you just said, I don't want all of this bad to be for nothing. I don't want it to be just this. I think some of the things that I've gone through, the lessons I've learned have been so profound. They've helped me. I see the world differently, like different colors. Like I literally, things look differently when you can get through the other side of that shit. It's a beautiful place. And I don't know, like I said, when I realized that maybe people wanted to hear what I had to say, and I'm in an industry where, thank goodness, I have worked really hard to, be in a position where people want to give me those platforms and put me on podcasts where I can share that message so that other people can hear that and think, oh, I'm not the only one. I would have done anything to hear one person, one stranger who related to any part of my story to get me through some of those dark moments. So yeah, you don't want it to be all for nothing. You want to use it for the greater good.
Yeah. And I mean, that for me has been one of the things that it's like, okay, a lot of that sucked, but at least there's this, but I really want to ask you too, because this is another thing that I get. And we talked about this a little bit before the show, but I think it's an interesting kind of concept. And that's the people who tell you shouldn't say this. Why are you talking about this? What aren't you worried that people aren't going to want to work with you, or they're going to think there's something wrong with you? Or, I was raised that you don't spill your guts all over everything. And I'm like, well, okay. So
times have changed a little.
Yeah. But I mean, have you heard that? Do people say that to you?
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm starting to get pissed. It is.
Me too.
I am pissed. I was thinking about this last night before today. And I told you before the show too, I've been knocked out with the flu bug. I haven't had the flu in over a decade, the last couple of days. So, and I'm just like thinking, you're sick, you don't feel that great. And I want my mom and she's not here anymore. And so I'm just like a hot mess, but it pisses me off. It really pisses me off. I think, first of all, I'm not discounting how strong I am. And I think that's one thing I've forgotten to say in a lot of shows that I've been through. I'm fucking tough. Oh, yeah. And you too, like we've talked about this, there's similar to be able to talk about it. Anybody listening who even has a thought that, oh, you shouldn't say that, or that's taboo, or that makes me a little uncomfortable. Think for a second about your darkest time, your toughest time. And even just telling one person that there's a reason the suicide rate is so high and people don't get help because they can't talk about it. So first of all, anybody who does talk about that, pat on the back, high five, man, like go you, because it takes somebody strong and mentally tough to be able to strip naked in front of people, and if you don't like it, then don't listen. If you think it's too much, then don't be a part of it. But I guarantee the people who need to hear certain messages is so much greater than those people who think they don't, and yeah, it has cost me job opportunities. It's definitely cost me job opportunities. It's cost me friends. I've learned just in the last 6 months. I think me being so public about so much more over the past 6 months, there's friends that don't text back the way that they used to, But that being said, it's just the more I say and the more I do, the more I just like kind of want to keep going, because the voices of the people who are reaching out saying, thank you, I needed that, or you too, are so much louder than the haters. But if you don't like a TV show, you don't watch it. If you don't like somebody talking about mental health publicly because it makes you uncomfortable, then don't listen. Like, I think it's as simple as that. You know what I mean? But it builds this shame almost, where it's just this, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. And you're already talking about something so vulnerable. Those people just piss me off.
Yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you. And I also think there's something, the attitude that we have, that if it's something mental, if you deal with depression, if you deal with anxiety, if you're dealing with addiction, if you're dealing with these things, there's something not nice about talking about that stuff. And I'm always like, how is that any different than I have a heart condition? I talk about that and nobody goes, oh my God, you shouldn't talk about that.
You know what?
Well, or maybe people do, but
No, but you're absolutely right. And I agree with you. And when my mom died 6 years ago, I remember there's one point, I think it was almost like a year, it had been almost a year. And there's one point a friend said to me, hey, it's been almost a year. You should probably stop talking about it so much. And I was like,
geez, really?
Okay, well, our friendship is over. And it's just, and I dealt with that kind of a lot. And that just sets the precedent for all these other things that are wrong. You're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. And on Mother's Day, I remember one year I posted something on Facebook about my mom not being there. And somebody had commented on it about, oh, way to bring down a happy day or something like that. And I'm like, I'm sorry that today's happy for you, but for me, it's not. And your mom's here. Yeah. You get to post pictures of your mom. I don't. Why don't I get to talk about my mom on Mother's Day? Just because she's dead doesn't mean that I don't have a mom. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those people too who are saying, like, you shouldn't talk about it because it makes people, don't talk about suicide. I hear that a lot, especially don't talk about suicide. Okay, well, how many more people have to kill themselves before we do start talking about it then? What if it was your daughter? What if it was your best friend? What if it was, would you let them talk about it? Would that be socially acceptable? And furthermore, why don't you dig down a little bit inside of yourself and figure out why it makes you so uncomfortable? In my personal experience, the things that make me uncomfortable or have made me so uncomfortable have been the things that have triggered some sort of major insecurity for me. And instead of kind of looking at that, I like to project onto other people and, well, you shouldn't do this because it makes me uncomfortable. Well, how you feel about me is really none of my business. What you think of me is really none of my business. But I care about people's mental health. So for your sake, maybe you should kind of try to figure out why it makes you uncomfortable. Like, and that's why I think talking about it is so important, because it should be just a normal conversation. But yeah, you're right. It's still taboo. And you know what? Honestly, the more talking I've been doing about it, the more I'm starting to find, I've had a couple, maybe you've been talking about it too much. Like, don't ride that momentum. I don't know. Everybody wants to have an opinion about it.
They do. And that's always so weird to me, because it's like, it's what you said. If you don't want to hear it for whatever the reason, then don't listen to the podcast or don't watch the show or don't go to the seminar or whatever it is. But, it's, and I mean, the other thing, this is the thing that pisses me off the most, I have to say, is the people that tell me that I'm talking about it because I want sympathy, because I want people to tell me that, oh, you're so strong. I'm like, you know what? If I had a nickel for every time somebody told me I was so strong, I would be a fucking millionaire. I'm sorry.
Same.
And I don't want people to pat me on the head and say, oh, yay, gold star for making it through this. I don't need that. I'm still here. And let me tell you, there are times when I hid the knives because I was pretty afraid if I didn't, I was going to slip my wrist. So
I get it.
And that's just my reality. It's not your, it may not be other people's reality, but that at the time was my reality.
Yep.
And I'm not ashamed. I lived. I'm still here. So.
You're here to talk about it. And how detrimental, like, that's the wrong word. You know what getting past that one night or that day or being, what that feels like. And I mean, and I can throw it up after this or whatever, just the statistics on suicide and suicide attempts and so on and so forth. The numbers are high. There are so many more of us, Christine, than there are
I know.
the others. You know what I mean? And so and you saying that gives me goosebumps, because I've been there. Yeah. And so many other people have been there. And hearing you say that makes me feel better. I'm like, oh, all right. Next time, like, I don't feel like I'll be in a suicidal place again, but it's somebody.
I don't either, but
I also didn't think I'd be there before. And that's the thing. Right. You don't realize that you are going to be so far down until you're that far down. You know what I mean? And so you saying that makes me feel more comfortable. It makes me feel normal. I was texting a girlfriend the other day, actually. Funny. It's a girl we've never met, but she's in the industry, but we've connected on social like a lot of us have. And she heard one of my podcasts and she has struggles. And so we just randomly will text back and forth and whatnot. And so I asked her, I said, any plans for Christmas? And then as soon as I texted that, I wrote back and said, I hate it when people ask me that. I don't know why I just asked you that. I hate Christmas. It makes me grumpy. It's not a warm and happy, fuzzy time for me.
And you and I are soul sisters. I love Christmas.
and it's not because I'm some Grinch or some whatever. It's just, it's not a happy time for me. It's for multiple reasons that have already been spoken. It's not. It's fine. I deal with it. I get through. It's not like I'm in bed depressed. That's the thing too. Like, just because somebody battles depression doesn't mean we're in bed all day like depressed. I live my life. I'll probably drink more than I normally do on that day. You know, it's but you get through it. How are we going to get through it? And she wrote back and she's like, thank God you said that. I think I'm the only one. And I'm perfectly content with like my grinchiness. And I'm like, yeah, me too. But you don't have to love Christmas. But you say you don't love Christmas and it makes people uncomfortable. Yeah. It's not a happy time for everybody. You know, it's just, people are different. We're all different. And I don't understand why those people get to have all the opinions.
I know. I talk about that I always put up a post round about Thanksgiving, and I'll probably do another one today or tomorrow in the Women in Garment Decoration group. And I say that Christmas, the holidays aren't happy for everybody. Some people are missing family members, or they're having their first Christmas without somebody they love, or I have what I call holiday PTSD from growing up with my family and the way that the holidays were. And I just am like, I don't want anything to do with it. I just don't, you know. And it's not that I'm, like you said, I'm not a Grinch. I don't have problems with other people having whatever they want to have or being excited about it or having Christmas traditions or whatever. I just, if I could just ignore the whole thing, and I pretty much do now, that's fine.
Yeah, same. And you should be allowed to do that. It's your life. You're not hurting anybody else by not putting up you don't put up a Christmas tree, do you?
No.
Oh, hell no. Yeah, me neither.
Oh God, no. There's nothing in my house that says Christmas.
No.
I did buy cinnamon rolls when I went out and got groceries today, because I do like to have a cinnamon roll on Christmas morning. But
I say Christmas cards. I love mailing Christmas cards. Mm-hmm. Like I handwrite like 75 of them and send them out. I love doing that. That's about it. But I also love
I find the little bits that I like, but otherwise I just don't, you know. And I have lovely people, in the same way with Thanksgiving. I can take or leave Thanksgiving. I really don't care about it one way or the other. And I have lovely people every year who invite me places, and the ones who get me, I just say, thank you. And they go, okay, but if you want to come, you can. And I'm like, yeah, but I probably won't.
But I always appreciate the invitation.
Yes.
One of my best friends, Madison, actually the last couple of years, I've just crashed her and her sister and their boyfriend's husband. There's like 4 of them, and they like go to Key West for Thanksgiving, or they do whatever because they boycott it because they have just Thanksgiving's just a shit show for them too. So they don't deal with it. And so I'm like, I'm coming with you guys up for Thanksgiving. But and we're not the only one.
And I don't understand. I guess I never have gotten the whole, you know, it's my choice and I'm fine with it. I'm not saying you can't have Christmas. I'm not saying you can't do what you want to do. I'm just saying I don't really feel the need to be a part of it. And I don't have the memories that you have about the traditions or whatever it is. And that's just the way. And you know what? I don't want to pretend. I mean, I'm not like actively going, oh my God, you guys are all brainwashed and horrible.
We're thinking it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah. But, you know, at the same time, I'm like, I will be in my house on Christmas Day, and I will read books and do whatever else I want to do and watch movies and be by myself. And that's fine.
Yeah.
I'd much rather do that than haul my ass to some celebration that I don't want to be at.
And it's the being fake part. And it, like you said, too, I don't want to be fake. And I felt like I had to fake it for so long. And I lived a double life for too long when I was dealing with the, you know, because my heavy drinking didn't start just because my mom died. That really kind of tipped me over the edge. But I don't know. I was, like I said, doing one thing behind the scenes, portraying this other person. I was so happy because I had started discovering that I had depression and anxiety. I'll never forget. My doctor was like, you're having panic. I'm like, I don't know what's happening to me. And this is like 10 years ago. And I was explaining it to him, and he's like, you're having serious anxiety attacks. I'm like, but I'm not anxious. My life's great. Well,
Yeah.
fast forward, obviously, that's not how it goes. And so you want to put me on an antidepressant. I'm like, I'm not taking an antidepressant. Well, now I'm all about it. Like, if something can streamline things up here a little bit. I'm not saying I don't want to feel, but just streamline things a little bit, like fix that little chemical imbalance I've got going on. I'm here for it. But and I was like, I'm not depressed. I'm not going to be labeled something, so on and so forth. And I think about that moment so many times because, and I would talk to people about it. Well, are you? And nobody really knew what to say back to me. Like, you're going to go on an antidepressant. I'm like, well, I don't know. Have you ever? No. Like, why would I be on an antidepressant? Why am I depressed? You know? But you can't talk about being on medication because then that means that you're like hiding something or whatever, or you know, I don't know. I'm going off on a completely different tangent now.
Well, no, I want to circle back to something that you said though, because this is one of the things that probably has made me be more open and honest than anything is the fact that I grew up with so many secrets. My dad was an alcoholic. My mother had her own issues, and my mother was the queen of what will the neighbors say? And so we were the picture perfect family out in the world. And I have friends who knew us when I was growing up who were like, oh, your mom and dad were so great and all this. And I'm like, you have no fucking idea, man. You know, and there were other secrets. I mean, I was abused by a teacher, and that was a secret for years and all this stuff. So I lived with so many secrets for so long that when I finally got to the point where I was like, you know, I could make the decision for myself and I felt tough enough, I was like, I'm not having, nothing is a secret. Everything is out there, you know?
Not
and
fake.
I like it so much better that way. Oh my God. It's so stressful to be always worried about all the stuff you can't talk about.
It is. And that's it. That's where I was trying to go with not faking it. The being open about it is just being open about everything in my life has helped me. Like, if you can be open about the, you know, dark and twisty parts and the kind of not so easy parts of life, then I find it easier to be open and honest about everything. You know what I mean? And yeah, to your point, I had secrets. I lived this double life. I didn't want people knowing I was drinking as much as I was drinking. And then, you know, when I came back after spending a year sober, I came back into this industry, went on this podcast, and then turns out not an alcoholic. I might drink a beer here and there, having to feel like I re-explained that to people. And I remember thinking at that time, well, I just won't ever drink at an industry event again. That's fine. I don't need to. Even now, I drink way less than I ever did before. So what's the big deal? And I'm like, well, then I'm going to feel like I'm doing something wrong, because I'm going to, if I want to have beer, I should be able to have beer. And I'd feel like I'd be doing something wrong for the sake of quieting other people's questions, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I think when you've been through things like we've been through, we all have our shit. When you've been through the really, really, really hard things in life, I don't know. I think it gives you this weird confidence that makes you like, this is me, take it or leave it. I'm a good person. I'm there for my friends. I'm good at my job. I work way more than I need to, but I will get shit done for you. I promise. I'm a contributing member of society. I'm all of these things. I don't want to have to fake any little tiny bit of me, because that's going to take away all of these other great things in your perception of me. You know what I mean? And it's just this constant battle that, yeah, like you said, it was the most freeing thing the day I decided just no fucks given. Like, now I have to be careful because I want to run my mouth about certain things and my opinions a little bit more than I need to. There's definitely still a line, but yeah, I can't live with secrets.
Well, I think there's a line, but I also think this is the other thing that I don't like. And I want to talk about this for a minute, which is, I call it the tragedy Olympics, which is like where the example I always give is way, way back in the day when I was first starting to try to figure stuff out. I went to a group therapy group for, I think it was children of alcoholics or something. I don't even remember. But the whole thing that the group did, the whole group dynamic was, let's compare our stories and see who has the worst story. And I was like, so I started calling it the tragedy Olympics, because these people were playing like they were going to get a gold medal if they had the worst thing. And I was like, this is not. So the story keeps getting rehashed and rehashed and rehashed. And it's like, you know, and I don't understand why this happens, but I've seen it in a lot of places. And I've also seen like you're the token person who had something happen to you. So so I want you to come and talk to me so I can be all sympathetic and tell you how wonderful you are. And it's like, I appreciate that, but I don't need you to tell me that.
No, it's not excuse me. It's the Tragedy Olympics. I like that. You're the most damaged. Congratulations. Like you get a gold.
You get the gold medal.
Yeah. Whoa, nobody's as damaged as you. Like that shit's fucked up. Here you go.
Yes.
Well, it's not a comparison. I say that all the time, especially with my mom. I had friends that have lost parents and they come to me, or I've of course reach out and I never know what to say. And I just say, I'm sorry. It sucks. The greatest thing somebody said to me was about 2 weeks after my mom died when I went back to CrossFit, and one of the coaches came up to me and said, really fucking sucks. It's glad to have you back. And I was like, thank you. It does suck.
Yeah.
Don't tell me time will heal. Don't tell me, I realize you're coming from a good place, and it's just again, being like that real and honest and be able to say like, this sucks. But you can't compare those stories. You can't compare tragedies. Just because my mom died and somebody else's mom died doesn't mean that I know what you're going through. A girlfriend of mine said that. She goes, I know you know exactly what I'm going through. You just went through this a year ago. I'm like, I have no idea what you're going through. Your mom wasn't my mom. I don't have the memories that you have. Yeah. The regrets that are going to haunt you are different than the regrets that are going to haunt me. Like, you can't compare tragedy. That's the thing. Mm-mm. There are our lives. And like, I happen to be somebody who's had a lot of bad shit happen. You too. A lot of bad shit's happened to us or around us or whatever. I've never victimized myself. That's why it took me so long to say, like, first of all, like, yeah, I am strong. And second of all, it was very recently where I said, I have had some people fuck me over. I have had some bad shit happen to me. And I think it's okay to finally admit that too. You know what I mean? It's just, but you can't compare tragedies. We're all somebody going through, I mean, you can't compare. You
can't. But people try, and I never have.
Try all day. I don't get it.
Gotten that.
I don't want to compare my tragedies either. Like, I want to talk about happy things. I don't want somebody else to have gone through the crap that I went through, Like,
no.
It's
weird because in a way it's like you meet some, and you can kind of tell the people who have been through some shit. There's something about them that you can just kind of go, okay, you're part of my tribe a little bit. I get you. And it's a sad sort of tribe to be in sometimes, but it's also like, okay, we're fireproof in a way almost because we've made it through this crap, and a lot of us did it on our own. And so we know. But the weird thing that I always think is interesting is that it almost becomes, people don't know what to do with that. They get uncomfortable with it and they don't know, I say a lot, and I really totally mean it. I am secure enough in myself now, and this is a relatively recent thing. I'll put my hand up to that. This is maybe the last 2 or 3 years, but I don't really give a shit what anybody thinks. I go out and I say what I want to say, and high five. But there's still people who think that I should give a shit what they think.
Yes.
And I never know. I don't know how. I mean, I fully respect everybody's right to privacy, and I fully respect everybody's right to decide what they share and what they don't. I'm not saying everybody has to do what we do.
Right.
But at the same time, I also feel like I don't want other people saying that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, And I don't.
That's funny too, right? Like, it's frustrating. Like, I don't shame anybody for not talking about it or saying, like, to each their own, So like you said, so why people, and I don't know, I'm going to ask you this question. Do you feel like, because you have been, because I'm trying to figure out why, because I'm not that special. Like, I know it's not just me that I'm some like great special person that everybody wants to know, like, what's going on. That's not it at all. So I don't know why. I don't know why so many people, and I've really, really discovered this lately. I feel like so many people have opinions about my life, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, what I should be doing, who my friends should be, who I'm dating, everybody has all these opinions. And I'm talking people who I'm like acquaintances with,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you have found that. Do you feel like people have all these opinions about your life and what you should be saying and shouldn't be saying? I think maybe it's tied to the fact that we have been open about like our struggles and we talk about the uncomfortable.
I think honestly, something that you said earlier has something to do with this, because I've gotten this too. You said people come up to you at events and they say, "Oh, you're Amanda Delaney," and they know who you are. I get the same thing. People come up to me and they're always nice and they say very nice things. And a lot of times they tell me something personal from their lives.
Yeah, I love that
But
part.
I think there's a sense of ownership that comes with that a little bit, that they feel like because we've been so open and honest and maybe we said something that connected with them in some way, they feel like they have a connection or a sense of, I don't like the word ownership, but it's the only word I can think of, where they feel like they have a stake or something.
It's like it gives them, a friend of mine says this too, telling your story, like it gives other people permission to share theirs.
Yeah.
So like ownership, the word I think that you're trying to use is right on the tip of my tongue too. I can't think of it. But yeah, it's
and I can't think of what it is, but
and that's something that comes with the territory, right? So like people, and I want that, like I said, and what you said earlier,
yeah.
I do not need one more person coming to me and saying, "You are so strong." Like, and I'm not saying that I don't appreciate it when people say it, when it's meant, but there's also so many times where I just feel like it's almost like I've heard it so much that it's condescending almost. Wow, you're so brave. You're so strong.
Well, and I think the other half of that stuff too, is it's something that people say to make themselves feel better.
Right.
The people who come up with the, "Oh, you're never given more than you can handle," or, "Well, you went through some tough stuff, but look how strong you are now." And I'm like, dude, I would give up some of the shit I went through to be a little less strong. I gotta tell you.
Same. I don't need to be this tough.
Yeah, I'm really good. I made it through some bad shit, but I could have been okay with not having, being a little less tough. That's good.
I don't need this much life perspective. Like I would have been good. I want to be heard. I think that's the thing that, and I still struggle with this. And I don't, and the reason I've been talking about this publicly, specifically, in our industry and on various shows and whatnot is, like you said earlier, that why just this, I think I've been through things. I've been given a voice. I have accessibility to platforms and I have access to get my voice out there. Right. I should use that. I should appreciate that. I should recognize that I've worked hard for that. And I should utilize that because I don't want other people to feel alone like I have felt alone. And I don't do that because it's self-serving. I do that because people have been through shit and people need help and nobody talks about it because you get shamed and all the things that you and I are talking about that we deal with, nobody else wants to deal with. I get that. But I don't need somebody to tell me I'm strong. I don't need somebody to be like, "Oh, for you made it to the other side. Like, good for you." I want to be heard. I don't even need somebody to like respond to me. There have been times in my life that I'm like, this is what I'm going through. I just need you to know that I've gone through this. I just need someone to hear me. I just need to know that I matter.
Yeah. And I think I totally get that. Especially when a lot of the stuff that you've gone through, you feel pretty powerless. When you get on the other side of it, you're like, no, I have power. I have the ability to talk about this stuff. Oh, this is a good question. Cindy wants to know, I think you all should address what kind of response would be appreciated. No one has walked in the exact same shoes. That's a really good question, Cindy.
That is a good question.
That's a tough, gosh, I've never really thought about that.
Well, I have, and I never come up with an answer, but thank you, Cindy, because I just thought to myself, I'm a little feisty today. I think it's because I've been sick for a few days. Because I do try to remember that people are coming from a good place, so when they say things, I thank you. It's just what you say. The best things, just real honesty. Like, I don't know what to say, but I've been thinking about you. I don't know what to say, this is uncomfortable, but I'm here for you. Just acknowledge that you know what? That's acknowledge that something, just acknowledge it. You want to feel validated.
Yes.
If you're depressed, like whether it's something bad happened or you're just, like when my mom died, like I just like, whoa, that's heavy. You're 32, your mom died. You don't have a dad. Like you're an adult orphan. Somebody said that to me once. And I was like, I say that all the time now joking, but I'm like, I am an adult orphan. Thanks for pointing that out at my lowest moment. But the people have just said, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. And then I picked up the phone, just nobody knows what to do. Like I said, I've been through all this shit and I still don't know what to say to people. I'm here. I'm here.
I think that's enough sometimes is just, I'm here. Or I know for me, one of the things that's been very profound for me is the people that come to me and say, hey, I heard you talk about this thing and thank you for saying that because I really needed to hear that. Or, I made sure that my friend listened to it or my sister listened to it or whoever it was. And I'm like, okay, so it's the stuff that's going out there is hitting with some people. And I like I don't know who this is. Sometimes StreamYard does not cooperate. StreamYard.com/Facebook, and that will give them permission to show your name. But just show up, acknowledge, and listen. Don't compare stories. Amanda is a great listener, so it's someone who knows you apparently.
Yeah. I do listen once in a while, believe it or not. I'm pretty good at that too. But yeah, that's exactly it. Facebook user, show up and listen. Just acknowledge that like you're heard. Acknowledge that like it's okay. Like I see that you're in pain. And I acknowledge it.
It's Meg. Hi, Meg.
Meg
Erber.
Who is
a former guest of this show. She was awesome when she did hers too. But
she's fantastic.
Thank you for being here, Meg. We appreciate it. I really do think though, and I want to touch on this because we talked about this obliquely a little bit, but I want to circle back to it. And that's when the fact that you're willing to talk about this stuff almost becomes your brand in a way. And that's something that I am still trying to parse out a little bit. And I don't know if you're doing the same thing, but if you're always getting asked to go on podcasts or talk about things and they want you to talk about aspects of your story or that kind of stuff, when does that become your brand, and how do you not have that happen if you don't want that? And I fully understand this is a really tough question. How do you talk about your shit without making your shit your brand, I guess, is the question.
Yeah. And that's the thing I struggled with before, right? I was that girl who went to rehab. I was that girl, who did that PromoKitchen podcast and talked about things nobody else had talked about. And I feel different now. I don't know what is perceived as by other people. I don't feel like it's my brand anymore. I personally, internally, do not feel like it's my brand. I feel like I am practicing and preaching what I talk about, which is talking about mental health. Like we're talking about where we're going to go for dinner. Right. So I'm having these struggles. This is how I deal with them. I think it's, I think it's beneficial to constantly speak about that kind of stuff. Like you said, I'm not here like telling my story over and over. That's there. But mental health isn't something that just goes away. It's not like a one and done, you're fixed and bam, there's no vaccine for it.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh gosh, I wish. But it's ongoing. New struggles come up. And I think, and I want to keep talking about it because I want to keep talking about maintaining it. I want to keep talking. I want to come back when I've won, I don't know, some great award or gotten some huge promotion in the industry. And I want to come back and I want to be able to say, hey, all those people out there that have stuck by me when I've been talking about like my mental health, like this has helped me get there. You know what I mean? I wanted to celebrate the wins with the losses. I want it to be this all enclosed thing, but it's not going to be. So I think for me, just, I don't know. I think as long as I keep talking about kind of how I'm trying to move forward, or again, like Meg said, listening, I've tried asking more questions lately, or, I say it all the time. If I send you a text and I say, how are you? Like, I really mean it. And if you deflect, I will go back and say, I see you deflecting. How are you?
Yeah.
Just trying to be
really
present,
happening?
Just trying to find, You do that too?
Well, I really liked what you just said about you don't want to rehash your story, but you want to talk about the subject. And I think you pinpointed right there how you avoid that being your brand is if you're talking about the subject and it's not your personal necessarily struggles or your personal story, but let's have a bigger conversation.
Yeah. And I think utilizing that, I think Meg said when she had me on her show, she's like, I feel like you really kind of knocked down the door for people to have these conversations. And I'm glad that I was able to be that person. I will always want to talk about mental health because it's a part of my everyday life. And I want to have my boyfriend and I met randomly at a bar in a group of like, it was me and my girlfriend, him and a friend, and a couple other people randomly talking about mental health. Like the things that I say, like we should be talking
awesome.
Constructive, like awesome, just like, oh, you go through that too. And why isn't this talked about? And we're making jokes about, just like certain things that only some of us can kind of understand. And I think that's important. So I think the more that I do to kind of talk about it and just talk about, the success stories, I guess what I want my brand in the mental health aspect to be is I want to be somebody who can give other people avenues and outlets. I've been listening to some other people who've been talking about mental health too and hearing their stories. I think I've done it. I've knocked down some doors. I'm very, very, very fucking proud of the conversations that I've had over the past 6-8 months, publicly about mental health. And I'm very fucking proud that I'm standing here today to talk about it. And, I want other people to have that opportunity. So I think if my brand is tied with mental health, I am 1,000,000% okay with that because I want other people to know that it can be a part of you and it doesn't have to define you, So I think I just want to kind of, I don't know, try to give other people the light to share their stories because for me, it was therapeutic. For me, I needed that. For me, I needed to put things back out there so that I could come back into this industry and do what I'm doing. Whether anybody else cared or not, it's what I needed.
Right.
And so, yeah. And these conversations with you like this, I mean, we should have a monthly just, hey, struggle with depression. Like, let's talk about it and just get together and talk about it.
Hey, I'm for it. Tell me when. I'll be there.
I don't know.
Because I think there is something to be said for people who get it because they've been through not the same thing because everybody's experience is different, but similar things.
Their versions.
Just having that, there's a kind of understanding that you get that you don't necessarily have if you've never had a day where your brain is trying to kill you,
Yeah.
And where you just are like, okay, I get this. I understand this because I've had it. Or where you look in the mirror and go, you are just the most worthless piece of crap that ever lived. Oh my God. And why anybody spends 5 minutes even breathing the same air that you do is,
Yeah.
And it's just the chemicals in your brain fucking with you and it. But
you can't do anything about it. It's like, okay, I know that I'm anxious. I know that they're not talking about me. I'm not really paranoid. But it's your reality at the time. You know what I mean? And like I said, and I don't mean to make light or like mental health isn't necessarily funny, but the things that I've done just to get through to another day, like you and I'll talk sidebar sometime. You'd probably find comical. Like, I've done this, I've done that. There's humor in it. It's life. It's life. People are depressed. People are anxious. Mental health. There's chemical imbalances that some of us can't control. Let's talk about it. We talk about everything else going on. Like, it's not that bad. I think I have some pretty freaking funny stories from some of my most like depressive, crazy, manic episodes. Hopefully we won't go back to those places. But I mean, live and learn, right?
Oh, I have some stories from my dark year that I'm like, how did I do all that shit? Why did I do all that shit?
Or do you ever think back about like what you were comfortable wearing out in public?
Oh my God. I mean, I look back at that year in particular now and I'm like, I did shit that I would never in a million, but at the time I was so snowed under by this huge clinical depression I was having that it was like, okay, this is just how it goes.
But then you look back and you see yourself how other people probably saw you during that time, and you're like,
yeah, I mean, I look back now and I go, that's surreal. But we're almost at the end here, and I hate to say that, but we're getting close to an hour. But the last thing I want to talk about is something that I think most people who have been through the situation that we've been through, the situations, the sorts of things that we've been through have, which is an ability to be optimistic and to believe in yourself when everything around you is just complete crap. And I want to talk about that because one of the best things that ever was done for me was I had a boss when I was probably 24 or 25 who pulled me aside one day and said, you're the most negative person I've ever seen. You're the darkest cloud. It's horrible to be around you. You need to fix this. And she was right, because when I was young, I kind of thought I got a shit deal and the world owed me something, because I didn't understand yet that, there is like no cosmic balance where right. I'm going to get, that sometimes you just get shit and that's what it is, but I was, everything was awful and everybody sucked and everything was, and
nothing was our fault.
No, and nothing was my fault. And I had no responsibility for any of it. And, and this boss of mine basically slapped me upside the head metaphorically and said, you got to be better than this. You are better than this. And I don't know what it was about what she said or what it was in me that made me ready to hear it, but I got it. And I've always been about being positive and but there's something, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure out even how to ask this question, but I guess I'll just go with this. What was it in you, or what was it that got you through it, that kept you thinking that, okay, I can survive this and make it through?
Which time?
Well, okay. Yeah, I know. That's the thing too, because it's kind of different every time. But was there some core of belief in yourself underneath? I mean, mine was, I'll admit it, mine is, I was told so often when I was young by my parents, and that I was worth it, that I wasn't worth it, that, nobody was ever going to love me, whatever it was, that there was kind of this fire in me that they're not going to be right. And so it's kind of a twisted, but it got me to the point where I could take action for better reasons, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I agree. And I've not from my mom, but other people in my family that I no longer talk to, same thing. No one's ever going to love you. You'll be pregnant by 14 and just all this. They're horrible people. So I get that. So yeah, it was proving them wrong. I think when I left high school, I didn't go to college. I started working and fell into this industry. So thank goodness. But that was my main motivation, is that I was going to prove them wrong. I didn't know what I was doing or how I was going to do it, but I was money is what always mattered to, again, not my mom, and not my entire family, just a few of them. Money always mattered to them. They don't have any, but it's the materialistic things. Like if they could get out of our small town and drive this nice car, I didn't care about money. I grew up with nothing. I just want to be able to live my life comfortably, but I was going to make a shit ton of money because that's what was going to prove them wrong. I just got lucky connecting with the right people and kind of moving up. But yeah, it's always this fire inside of me to prove people wrong. I've always been a happy, optimistic kind of person anyways, even at my lowest times. I've been able to really project that. I've been so close to, I've been very close to ending my own life twice in my life. Once was almost exactly a year ago right now, actually. And when you've been down that far, you don't have time in the day to be anything but recklessly optimistic and happy. You know what I mean? And when I'm sad and angry and whatever, I talk about that too. I express that too, because I think that's important. But at the end of the day, You've been down that low. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. I totally get that. And I think when you get to that point where you're looking at it and you're like, I have a choice, and the choice to not go on seems like a valid choice because you're hurting that much. So
Yeah.
when you really choose, okay, I'm going to keep going on anyway. Yeah. It's like it's a weird thing to say, but there's almost nothing more life affirming than that, to go, I know this sucks and I'm really hurting right now, but I'm going to choose to be here tomorrow.
Yep. And and then good things happen. You hold on, and then something profound happens, and then that helps you build. That helps you build. Then you have a track record of things working out. Then the good starts to outweigh the bad. You know what I mean? But in talking about it, people like you who are like, hey, been there. I don't think you're crazy. I've been there too. How are you going to do it?
Yeah.
No, that's a little too dark. But it's that helps. And then
how are you going to do it?
How are you going to do it?
For some reason with me, it's either pills or knives.
Ooh.
And knives, I have no idea why, but for some reason, I don't know why, but knives.
Well, I'll tell you offline. Well, no, suicide is bad, period, people. I haven't.
It is. And I want to say right up front, I am not advocating anybody do this. If you feel like you're in a place where you want to do this, reach out, get help, because we need everybody. We need everybody that's here to stay here.
We need more people having these conversations so that we can,
but at the same time, I think there's something to be said for, I was at that point and I chose not to.
And I chose not to.
And things got, it's like they do those It Gets Better things for LGBTQ kids.
Yeah.
Where they have grown-ups talk about the fact that now things are better for them than when they were trying to figure things out. And, it's the same thing if you're having issues, if you're having depression, if you're having suicidal ideation, whatever it is, And we're like the poster children for It Gets Better.
We really are. We should start a sideshow. And I know we're out of time. So the last thing I'll say is real quick. To your point too, talking about knives, I used to cut myself. I was a big cutter back. I didn't want to die. I was a cutter. And I haven't in years and years, but still to this day, when I look at a really sharp knife, like to cook, I smile. It's like a reminder that I got myself out of that place. And I like paying attention to those, not because I feel like it brings me back to the past, but because it reminds me that I pushed through some really, really, really bad times. And I'm happy about that.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing. I think that's the last thing I want to kind of end on here, is that's important, that we need to take pride and we need to acknowledge that, hey, because I think a lot of times there's kind of a tendency to go, oh yeah, or, not respect ourselves for the fact that we've made it through all this stuff. And I really think that's important, that you need to acknowledge what you made it through. So yay.
Yay, and yay you. It helps me. It helps me continue to be more optimistic and happy because, like you said, we don't shout ourselves out enough for that yet. And we should be proud of ourselves. We know how hard it was to get through that day. And now we can tell our stories and have somebody else get through theirs.
And I think that's what I really hope everybody takes away from this little conversation that we had today is, it does get better and there is help. If you're in a place where things are bad, there's help. There's organizations, there's people you can talk to. You can certainly reach out to me or reach out to Amanda or whatever you need to do.
All day, every day. NAMI.org is a great resource. I send people to NAMI's website all day long. You can find your local chapter and get involved. And even that, just being, dealing with depression and whatnot, getting involved with, volunteering, whether it's a mental health institute or not, volunteering and doing tends to help as well.
Where is it? And these guys, PromoKitchen, they're doing I'm a sous chef. Amanda also works with them. They're a good organization. Amanda's had really good conversations about mental health with them. I did a podcast with them, and we ended up talking, not really by design, but it kind of went that way.
Yep.
We ended up talking about mental health. These are good people. They're doing a lot of good work in the industry. PromoCares is another organization. I don't have their
PromoCares.org.
Yeah, PromoCares.org.
Yep,
they did the whole fundraiser, Sleeping for Good, this year. Amazing people.
Raised over $14,000 for NAMI.
Yep. So, there are places that are definitely working to do good in the industry. So if you need a group of, and as Jay Bassell calls them, the misfit toys are at PromoKitchen. So if you're a misfit toy, come hang out with us, because we'd love to have you.
We would love to have you.
Yes. And I just have to say, we're at about an hour, and I could go for about 3 more, but that would be a little bit much. So
we can do this offline anytime, Christine.
Meg says I'm in oh my, so I'm not sure what she's in for, but we'll go.
She's here for it. I just want to say along for the ride.
Thank you so much for being so honest today. I really appreciate it. It meant a lot. And thank you, everybody who watched. I love you for your comments and for being here. Happy holidays. I will not be here next week. I will be back on January 5th with a show about how to get the most from trade shows in 2022. Lisa Shaw will be my guest. So thank you, everybody. We love you for being here, and we will see you in 2022. And I'm hitting end broadcast before I keep talking some more.